it's like a broken record, same old songs of accusation play. Like who are you to speak the truth? Just look at all your failures and mistakes. And if they really knew you, there's no way they could love you anyway. Oh, but I will fight the lies with the truth.
Hello and welcome to Send Help Podcast, a podcast and a lifeline for moms who are stuck in the trenches of mommyhood, bringing them encouragement through Jesus, laughter, and sisterhood.
Sisterhood.
I knew it. Yes.
Man,
All right.
it's become a thing now. I can't
Well-
stop it.
Hey, Christy.
Hey,
What's happening today?
man. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm super excited.
So excited.
So excited. I need a new word. I feel like I say super a lot. Super excited to have a super great friend visiting with us today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a little bit of history, a little bit of background.
Tell us the background.
Before I introduce her. I have known her for pretty much as long as I've known you.
Yes.
Yes. So you and I bonded the summer before 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And, 8th grade year, being the newbies, being the new kids on the block. At the new school.
We were hanging tough
We
back
were
then.
hanging tough being the new kids at the school. Okay. So
The right stuff.
So I bonded with this friend. Like I feel like I can't say her name until
Until you drum roll her
drum
in.
roll her in. So we became friends. We ended up, y'all, if you think that VBS is crazy or summer camp with students is crazy, and everyone's like, oh, God bless the youth leaders because they're at summer camp. Let's pray for them. What about Mr. Randall McKinney, who took the entire 8th grade to Washington, D.C.?
Oh, amen.
Right?
Gosh, that was a horrible trip.
I loved it,
I know you both loved
but
it.
I don't remember most of it.
No, I
either.
mean, I liked it too, but I cannot even fathom being an adult on that trip.
Right?
There was so much drama happening.
There was so much drama. And the only adult that I even remember being there was Mr. McKinney.
There were other adults.
There had to have been. He couldn't have handled probably
But
80 kids on his own.
Moment of silence for Mr. McKinney.
Love him.
We loved him
Yeah.
so much.
I don't think he's dead.
No,
I
he's
mean,
not. No,
he's
he's
still alive.
definitely not. Oh my gosh.
Moment of silence.
No,
We loved
moment of
him. Like,
silence.
no, he
as
still
in,
exists.
like, pray for him. Because
I don't think he still does it.
I know.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, this is where this is where the train derailed. Okay.
I watched
No.
the OJ trial in his class.
Yes, we did. We watched the
verdict.
chase.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
all of it.
Oh, yeah, the
From
whole-
beginning.
I know.
From the beginning. Okay.
That
anyway,
dates us for sure.
it does. So that Washington, D.C. trip
Mm-hmm.
is where I ended up rooming with our guest.
Yeah, we've all been to Disney World together
We've
too.
been to Disney World together.
Yes, we have.
And she is one of the people, y'all, I might not have a tribe.
You do.
I do have a
You're
tribe.
realizing that you have a tribe.
My
your teepee
tribe-
is just big.
My teepee engulfs the state of Texas. Not everyone within the state of Texas is in the teepee, but it has to be that large because my tribe is all over the place, and my tribe predates.
Yeah, we're
The term
two legs.
tribe.
We're 2 legs of your tribe,
Yes,
Of your
two
teepee.
legs of my tribe
of your little teepee.
are in this room, and it's one of the happiest moments of my life. Reunited, and it feels so good. Like that's where I'm at right now. So
We were also bridesmaids at your wedding.
you were. So now anyone who knows me or was there knows who I'm talking about. Well,
like, okay,
whatever. Okay,
just get on with it.
So that's how far back we go. I also made one of the largest decisions of my life based on her. Because I was not going to go to college. Didn't want to, wanted nothing to do with it. I was scared to leave home. She said, I'm going to North Texas. Come there and room with me. I said, okay. And I did. It's the only reason why I went to college was because she said, come on with me. She doesn't talk like that. So we ended up rooming in college together. It is the only way that I met any person
That's so true.
at all. Period. I would have not ever talked to my roommate. I would have never spoken to a suite mate. I would have never left my room. I would have gone to class if I went to class. I did. I went to all of them, Mom. And
Hey, you've got a master's, so
I went to those classes.
boom.
So let me give you, okay, other than our history.
Yes. Now I think you should introduce.
Right. So
Yeah.
we're talking about my wonderful, amazing, miraculously good looking friend, Lacey K. Metter Hester.
Hello. Better history. Hey, Lace. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. So excited because you have a story
I do.
that I feel like not a lot of people would admit to, but a lot of people have. And I say not a lot of people would admit to because it's an adoption story.
Yes.
It's raw.
It's very raw.
Yours, it's very raw, but yours is very unique.
So it's incredible.
It's an
It's
incredible.
an incredible story.
So we were in, just like everything else that I would never have gone to. She took me to a
She
church
had the car,
out
you
there.
guys.
I
My
had
car
a
was always
I had to
broken.
drive. Yeah,
So she
that's
had to
true.
go.
That's true. I had to drive. So we ended up. She went to a church and then she's like, "No, you would like these people. I promise." So I went with her. We became part of the college group. One of the girls in the group had recently had a baby,
Yes.
and we all fell in love with him.
Of course, because why not? It's a
Right?
baby.
It's a baby. We all fell in love with him. Lacey developed a very unique bond with him, with his mom also, but definitely with him.
Yeah.
And fast forward 5 years,
6
5, years,
6, yeah.
and you end up adopting him.
Yes.
Yes. And I think the part that not everyone is going to admit to is that he had a rough life.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had a rough beginning.
Yes.
Those first 5 years were not great for
lots of
him.
trauma.
Lots
Yeah.
of trauma. And a lot of people are going to have the mindset of once the child is adopted, their world just becomes flowers.
Right.
And
It doesn't. Not always.
it doesn't. And I know that because I've walked beside you through a lot of your story. And it doesn't always just become amazing for the kid. There's still trauma that exists, and emotional, physical, like it all is still there. It doesn't just get erased because you get adopted by, I think it's like adopted, but it's adopted, adopted
That's the future.
by a
Adoption.
Right? Adoption is the way of the future. Just because you get put into a great family that gives you everything
Yeah.
that you need above and beyond. You fought, and you went above and beyond. You found all of the newest, latest therapies that were going to do all of the crazy things for brain connectors and pathways. And I mean, conversations that we had, I was like, this exists? Okay. Let me know how it goes. I mean, you worked for him. You fought for him
Yeah.
so hard. And it was amazing to watch. It was amazing to watch you become his mom, fight for him, and grow the way that you have grown as a human being. Just in and of itself is amazing. Things that you learned for him. Things that, I mean,
For real.
Yeah.
Okay, can I just say what keeps popping into my head, and I'm not trying to derail this at all. You have loved him the way that the song Reckless Love is popping into my head. Because that's the way that you've pursued him and you've loved
Absolutely.
him from the minute he was.
Pursued him
Put
like you
into-
literally hunted him down.
You hunted him. Yes, you knocked down every door. You
Yes.
climbed every mountain. You have loved him the way that the Father loves every one of his children. And when you're telling the story, and I'm like, it's reckless love.
It is. It is reckless love.
Gosh, man. Wow.
Y'all, she was single.
Yeah.
She was fresh out of college, starting out in life. When he was moved. He was moved from one foster home to another, and she lost him.
Yep.
She kept up with him in all of his homes when he was taken from his mom and put into foster care. She kept up with him. She made relationships with all of the foster parents and families so that she could still be a part of his life. And there was a little blurt there that we lost him.
Well, I always say that was God's way of making me butt out because I was in the hospital for 2 months.
Right.
Yeah.
And had I not been in the hospital, he would not have gotten put in a place where I could officially adopt him because I would have been
That's true.
busy in it. And I wasn't paying attention or listening. And so he's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Right?
He's like, Lacey, let me do this.
Why don't you go ride a bed for a while and
Yep.
let me take care of this?
Yes. So probably 20 years old,
Yeah. 22.
22 years old.
Yeah.
How many 22-year-olds do we know that would love this child, seek them out, and fight to adopt them as a single mother?
Was
insane.
I 22?
It's incredible.
Maybe.
Hold on. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Well, because like
2009.
it didn't. No,
2008.
no, you were not 22. I was
Gosh, wouldn't
about
we love
to get
have
married.
been 22 in 2008?
I know.
But
Right.
through all of that, I mean, it's not like you didn't have a relationship with him and you weren't like at 22, you're like, I'm going after this kid.
No, I was like the only consistent thing
Yeah.
he had.
Yeah.
So
It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Sorry, I got us off the track a little bit, but you got us
No,
back
not
on.
really. That's how we roll. But I mean, I've watched you through this whole thing, and I've seen your love for him and how you fight for him, even though a lot of times I know you felt like you weren't fighting for him, even though you were.
Yeah.
The way that you were fighting for him is the way that God fights for us.
Yes.
He lets us go through a struggle. He lets us go through a hard time. He could save us from some things, but our free will that we exercise leads us down another path. And he lets us face those consequences. And you've done that for him, even though I know it's hard.
hardest.
The
It's
hardest. Yeah.
To watch your baby have to go through the consequences that they have created for themselves.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
as a learning
Right.
moment.
And it's not because he wasn't given every opportunity,
Right.
but we all still end up. And I know that there are moms out there that when they hear what you have to say are going to think, this is where I am. This is the struggle that I am in the middle of. Because adoption, the aftermath can be very messy. It can get very ugly. But it's beautiful, regardless.
Yes. So I think what we probably should kind of get out there so we understand is my kiddo, through a series of events, made some unfortunate choices and landed him in the juvenile justice system. So as much as no one ever wants that for their kiddo. I truly feel like this is where God wants him, not me, not as a mama. We don't want those.
No.
Yeah.
We don't want that for our babies. But it's taken me a long time to get there, to be okay. And not even okay is the wrong word, because that feels like I'm okay with it, but I'm not.
Right.
But it has been a process getting to where I'm at now to even because I guarantee if you'd called me 2 years ago when this was happening and said, "Hey, you want to come do a podcast?" I would have been like, no.
Are you
Are
crazy?
you kidding? Because I didn't want to talk about it with anybody.
Right.
I think as a society, we have such a view of the parents of kiddos that are in the juvenile system.
Oh, yeah.
I know
Yeah,
I did prior
sure.
to this. I know I did. Like, they're just in a bad home life, and they have parents that don't take care of them, or that allow them to do things that are unsavory, and all those things. And being on the flip side of that, your perspective's always just the perspective in the moment. It's not your perspective, not the perspective that's permanent. And I think the flip side of that is being where you are and where he is all part of a plan.
Yeah.
And I think God's plan for him is so much bigger than what I could ever want for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember talking to him because we were very fortunate to know when he was leaving. And I remember the night that he was leaving, he had made this little Lego. And it was like of a little, gel cell, which y'all, this is so hard to talk about. I wore my waterproof mascara for a reason. But he made this little gel cell out of Legos, and he was like, this is just how it's helped me cope. And I told him at that moment, I remember telling him, God is putting you on this path, and you are walking this journey for a reason. And at some point, you're going to be able to testify and have your testimony speak to somebody that's either in the same situation you're in right now, or you'll be able to say, I understand what you're saying, because you really will understand.
Right.
And, I'm a mom. He's my kid. He's like, okay, yeah, mom, whatever. Like your typical kid response. But I truly and wholeheartedly believe that every part of his life is so he can have a testimony to speak to others, and that all the things that we've been through together is to have a testimony to speak to others.
Yeah, because y'all, she raised him right.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
He knows the Lord.
Right.
He knows the Lord. He has a relationship with the Lord.
Right.
And she did everything. Everything. Like I could even see myself being in your position instead of you, because I'm like, well, I know how many times I just like let him watch TV or gave him too much screen time or did this or did this. Like I got busy. You're
You're a lot more
prioritize.
disciplined
You are
than I am.
disciplined. You are like,
Oh, you guys.
you wouldn't let him get away with anything.
We actually took him, because when your kid is struggling, and
Right.
when he's needing help. So we, my husband and I, they have a little program in our hometown, and it's kind of like, the old school Scared Straight, but
Right.
it's not called Scared Straight, but we took him to that. And I remember we were sitting in the little parent, like they take the youth one way and then they take the parents, and they have a little parent seminar. And I remember the presenter at the front, he's like, there's different kinds of parents, but the parent you want to be is the John Wayne parent. He goes, it's
Is
the
that
parent
not completely
doesn't-
perfect
Oh
for
yeah,
your husband?
it is. It is, y'all. If you know my husband, he is like obsessed with John Wayne. So of course he immediately started listening.
That's me. That's the dad I am. I'm
But-
John Wayne dad.
Exactly. But as he was going through all the things, I was like, yeah, that's us. We do that. And we don't play. We don't
No,
play.
you
Like
don't.
what we say goes, and even if we're wrong,
If Lacey is
You
ever
stick to it.
around your
Consistent.
children, she will be that way with
Oh
them
yeah,
also.
she totally mommed Josh tonight. It was great.
She moms my kids all the time.
Yeah, and I do it because I'm a teacher too. So it's like part.
I love it because then they're like, oh, so it's not just mommy that makes me say please.
Yeah, she made Josh apologize to Tim for not being respectful tonight.
And I always feel
She's
bad.
like Mary Poppins.
Seriously. She's also got a special ed background. I
It's
mean,
true.
like the woman, she knows what she's doing.
and I think that was why all of this was so hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I have a master's in behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
Like I have a master's in autism intervention. And to have all of this going on and all of this struggle going on, and thinking, why can't I fix my kid?
Yeah.
And I think it took me a long time to realize that was the wrong way to look at it. Like,
Absolutely.
I didn't need to fix him. Like he's perfect the way he is. He just needs to be like, I don't even know. Like,
It's kind of like when God laid you down for 2 months.
right.
Yeah.
So, with all of this going on with him, it was really hard for me as a mom to think, like, what are people going to think? And what are people going to do? And, like, are they going to think I'm a bad mom? Because I know what I thought of kids that went into juvie, and I know what I thought about their home life and what was going on at home and all of these things. And so it was such a struggle, you guys, because he had been taken out of our home, which I never wanted for him. But on the flip side of that, we had been trying to get him help for several years. And because he was a Medicaid baby, because he got Medicaid through the state when we adopted him, there was like a 7-month wait list on any
Oh.
help. And so when I say it was kind of a God thing, like as much as you don't want that, when you have a court order, there's not a 7-month wait list
Right.
anymore. But with a court order, there's also this stigma. And so I, as a mama, struggled so hard with talking about what was going on. Because, what's the first thing when you get together as moms? You're like, oh, how's Avery?
Yeah.
How's Josh? And like, I dreaded hanging out with people because that's what they're going to ask about.
Yeah.
And I tried for, a couple months to be like, oh, everything's good. It's all fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was one point where it occurred to me that he was absent from all of your Facebook posts.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Facebook detective.
I totally was. And I don't remember if I called you or if it was just the next time we were together.
Yeah.
I said, so what's up?
Right. Yeah. Like,
And you still weren't ready to talk about it.
it was. And you guys, you don't understand. Like, Christy is my very best friend in the entire world. Like, she knows anything before anything. And I didn't even tell her because I didn't know. And I knew that there was going to not be any judgment and that she knew what was going on. But it was still just that stigma of, I messed up. I messed up so bad that my kiddo got put in jail. Like, I'm a failure. As a mom, I'm a failure. And it still hurts, obviously. But it's kind of an evolution because I went through the not wanting to talk about it, like not admitting it. And I am not well versed on the like 12 or 15 or 27 steps of guilt or grief or whatever it's called. But I know that guilt is one of those grief things, I think. I've been told that. I probably should have done some more research before this, but if I research things, then I really nerd out, and I wanted to save you guys from that. So, but I went through this like huge guilt thing, and I didn't want to talk about it. And then you feel guilty for not wanting to talk about your kid because you want to love on your kid and you want
Right.
everybody to know that you still love your kid regardless of what he's done. So then you feel guilty for feeling guilty. And it's like this
vicious
cycle.
cycle.
It is. It is like this cycle, guys. And it's, what's so funny about the whole thing is, like, this is big, like intensity level 10 plus. right? But I've also felt that way about so many other things before this. Like when he got in trouble at school and they're like, oh yeah,
Right.
da da da. Did he get to go to the whatever festival? And I'm like, no, because he's grounded. But I didn't want to tell anybody that because for some reason that was my fault. And I felt guilty. I didn't want to talk about it. It was just too much. Right. And so, this was just exponentially,
Yeah.
And after that, then it became really hard to be around people with kids. Because after you get over the whole guilt thing and you get that like huddle of people you actually talk about it with and you get used to talking about it, it becomes okay to talk about it and you find certain scripts that you talk about with certain people defined on your
Right.
level of intimacy with them, right?
Yeah.
And so there's the acquaintance and you're like, oh yeah, he made some bad choices and we're just dealing with that. And then there's people that know you a little better and you're like, well, he's not with us right now. He's in some therapy, but we're working through it. He's working through it. And then there's the, high intimacy level where you can really be real with them. So I finally found these little scripts that I could talk to with people, but then it was really hard just to go and see people hang out with their kids. And then again, you feel guilty for not wanting to hang out with somebody because they have kids and it's not their fault they have kids.
Right.
But I don't want to be around you because it hurts too bad. But you can't explain that to anybody because they're like, oh, it's okay. I totally understand. And I'm like, but you really don't. Because here I am grieving somebody like they're gone, but they're not gone. And so then you feel foolish because I shouldn't be grieving somebody like they're gone. I felt bad because for somebody that truly did lose somebody that's gone,
You don't feel validated.
I didn't feel justified to feel grief for.
But you can grieve what your relationship was that doesn't exist anymore.
and
Right.
what you thought you were going to be doing.
Yeah. Oh, what I thought I was going to be doing. We have another podcast on that. But so I just found it easier to just not be around people. I was telling Christine and Amanda as we were kind of prepping this a couple weeks ago, talking about it, because I felt like, when you go down the road and you see the turtle in the middle of the road and there's like all this traffic and they've like tucked into their little shell. Like I kind of felt like that's where I was. Like I've tucked into the shell and, the traffic passes and the turtle like will kind of put like one little leg out to test the water and then they'll stick a side of their eyeball out. And if you can see me, it's a really great analogy. Like y'all need to vlog it. I'm just saying. But they like stick their little eyeball out. And if anything moves, like a little tumbleweed or a piece of grass, they all tuck back in. Right. And I felt like I was just on this like never ending path of tucking back in.
Yeah.
Like I would kind of put my feeler out in the water and something wouldn't go exactly as I had it planned in my head. And I would just tuck back in. I'm like, nope, it's not worth it. Not really put myself out there. But good old God, he has like this crazy plan all the time. So, through the process of, all of this grief and isolating myself and really like just being alone, if you know me, I didn't do alone well ever my whole life growing up.
No.
I don't do alone. Like I had to have people around me.
You used to come back to the dorm room. Hey, this is Ed. I just met him out on the sidewalk walking back to the dorm. We're going to hang out for a while.
That makes me sound really trashy. I mean, it wasn't like that.
No.
As a friend, like we're just going to hang out.
That is not. That was not Lacey Metter, and it is not Lacey Hester.
That's not what I was saying.
John, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
I didn't mean it like that.
But yeah, no, if I do not want to be alone, I never wanted to be alone. I always have to have music or TV on in the house. Like I don't like quiet. Like that was just not me. And it's been that way my whole life. And I think in losing my identity as a mom, because that's truly what happened. Like my whole world was being mom.
Yes, it was.
That's all I did, because we were in counseling and therapy and like after school activities and this club. And just trying to get him engaged and plugged in and something that he could find value in. So that's what I did all the time. And I also did groundings and punishment and restrictions, all those too. So, sometimes one equaled out more than the other, but that was what I did. And so when he was gone, I went into like this grief mode, and then the guilt and the isolation, and then I didn't have my identity. So then when I finally did kind of feel like plugging back in, I didn't know what socket to plug into, because my mom's socket no longer works because I don't have anybody to mom. My poor husband, you guys. Let me just say, my mom juice had to go somewhere. I love you, babe. So, I struggled so much with finding where I fit in. And so then that was like another moment where I felt like such an outsider and I didn't fit in. I've always been so unique. That's just kind of me. And I've always owned it.
She is a unicorn.
Yeah.
She is. Y'all, if y'all have ever thought in your knowing of me that I was outgoing, I was channeling Lacey. It was a lie.
But you did it so well.
True.
I'm so proud of you.
So true.
That's how I backed Dusty.
You're welcome,
He
Dusty.
thought I was outgoing.
But in this, I found myself in this unique place that I wasn't comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because I was so alone and it was so quiet. That sounds really cool.
It sounds amazing, but
So-
not for you.
Yeah. It was so quiet, but not quiet in a physical sense, but just quiet, like nothing going on. And it took me a long time to get comfortable in that place because I didn't do quiet. I didn't do it alone.
When you're quiet is when all of the things kind of surface.
Right. That's when you think. And thinking is not fun sometimes. And so I think in this process, God really was trying to get me to realize that being alone and learning to be alone and love yourself in that quiet, that in and of itself is a process, and I would be lying to say that I wasn't maybe a little depressed, because there's a lot. What did my doctor call it? Situational depression or environmental depression, something like
Situational.
that. Situational depression. And so, so at first I just kind of hacked it up to, I'm just depressed. That's why I don't want to be around anybody or go anywhere. And then, if you can't tell already, I'm kind of loud and obnoxious. And so when people have to tell me
You're
things,
holding it down really well.
I
right
know.
now. So-
It's because I can hear myself in the headset.
In the headphones.
Like John is going to hear this and he's going to be like, can she just wear those all the time? But anyways, so I found myself in this place, in this quiet, and it was so quiet that I kind of just passed off. Like, oh, I'm just depressed. It's not a big deal. It makes sense. And it was God's way of just kind of saying, no, you need to be, don't make an excuse for this. Like, this is purposeful. It has purpose. And you need to be okay in this isolation and realize that isolation is not always bad. Isolation is where great things can happen sometimes.
It's where sanctuary is. It's where solitude is.
It is, but I don't ever do that.
Right.
So it was really hard for me to sit and wiggle in it. It was just, y'all.
You're making me think of the song, the New Wine song.
Yeah.
I don't know the correct words, but in the peaceful, in the quiet, in the whatever those things are, you're
In the
making,
reaping.
Yeah, in the reaping, you are making new wine.
Well, man, I am going to be vintage, you guys. It is going to be awesome. So, it took me a while to realize that that's where I am. So this probably happened, I would say probably 6 months ago. I started kind of realizing that that's what's going on. Everything in the world is not rainbows and unicorns and sparkles and glitter, even though that would be amazing.
What is that's really hard to accept when you're Lacey, I would
know.
imagine.
But
I have a fun story later.
oh no. But it got to a point where I realized, like, okay, so that's what's going on. I accept it. I hear you, God. We're good. Like, thumbs up, bonus points, like Mario, brick, yes. And so
Mario Brick.
you guys, the
I know.
Come on, be with me.
so good.
So
good.
It is so good. And so I got there and I was totally fine. I learned my lesson. Like, I am good to go. And God was like, are you kidding? And so he kept kind of like, I always, God's human to me. Like, I visualize him in like this human form. So I see God going to like this mud boot corner in his house and getting his big like galoshes on and like pulling him up over his giant legs and like going behind me and like just booting me out of my comfortable place, because that's where I was. Like, I was happy with being okay in my isolation and being happy with that.
Happy
And
hermit.
yes, no, for
Yes.
serious. And nobody would have ever thought that I would be okay with that. Like prior.
Right.
For
And-
sure.
And I was happy. Like, I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to go out to eat. I didn't want to, but it wasn't because I was depressed. It was just because I preferred being at home and just hanging out. Like, I wouldn't mind if people came over.
I fully understand what you're saying.
So perspective. I'm so glad. It's a great segue. We didn't even plan that, because that's my next point, and I was getting off track. So I was when I was telling Christy this. So this whole revelation of this is where I was, and this was God. So it hit me like, a big brass drum. Name that movie.
Big brass
Mary Poppins.
Thank you. So it hit me like a big brass drum that this is what God was doing. And so I was fine with that. And then I realized, like, that's not it. And I was actually talking to Christy about this, because I'm like talking now and I can get it out and I can share. And I'm at a moment where I can actually put words to all of the stuff that's been going on.
Share it with 200 people.
Yeah, right? And I was telling her, I said, when we were in college and you were like this introvert and you kept saying you don't like to go out and be social. And Christy, I thought I knew. Like, I thought I understood what you were saying, but I so get it now. And I'm just letting you know I really didn't get it then. But I get it now. Like, I get that it's just more comfortable being at home and like doing your own thing where you can control all of the variables and you don't have to like
It's like the clouds part and
Right.
God starts singing as the sun shines on you. You're like, I'm at home
I'm
and
at
I don't have to
home.
wear a bra.
right.
I don't have to interact with people.
Christy figured out a way to do public speaking from my home.
Yes.
I mean, bonus.
Brilliant.
Right? You guys, when she told me she was doing a podcast, I was like, huh? Christy is?
Yeah.
Like, Amanda, I totally get. Christy? But
know.
you're like rocking it. I'm so proud of you.
It's really hard for me to speak out loud.
And I don't mean that in like a chastising way. I really am proud of you. Like,
Oh, thank you.
amazing. But
Back at you.
For real, look at you. You're doing it too.
I know, right? I've never had issues with talking, obviously.
No, that's true.
So truth. But so, and so I'm talking to Christy about this perspective, and then it hits me. And we were actually talking about your girls. We were talking about, because I was telling her how I got so mad because they would,
Y'all, what she's about to say, like, hit me when she said it to me.
So put your listening
Like, really
ears
hard.
on. Everyone, turn them on. Everybody take a moment, turn on your ears, and now go.
so I was telling Christy how I would get so upset when they would drop the teaser for the podcast to come out, because I'd see it and I'd be like, oh, the next one's out. And it wasn't out yet. It's just the teaser for tomorrow. And so I was telling her about that, and I had this complex. Like, do I listen to the next one and then know I have to wait a week for the next one? Or do I like store them up and listen to one and have one in the barrel for like the next listen? I mean, you guys, life, it's adulting. It stinks. But anyways, so I was telling Christy that I was listening to them talk about what they pray over their kids, and that they pray what they feel their weaknesses were over their babies. And in talking to her about that, I said, have you ever thought that maybe what you're praying over your girls, like to be brave and courageous and strong, is happening, but not the way you think it's supposed to be happening? Because for Christy, growing up, being brave and courageous and strong all had to do with social environments, like going out in public and talking to people and meeting new people and being in a crowd and mingling. Like those were all her brave, courageous, and strong things. And I said, "Did you ever think that maybe that's not how Avery and Annabelle need to be brave, courageous, and strong? That maybe
Because they're little social butterflies.
yeah, they are not. They did
That's
not get
not
that
their
from their
brave.
mama."
No.
But and as I'm telling her this, I kind of, how you that little mustard seed, and it's kind of been fluttering, but you don't know if it's really you thinking it or if God put it there, or if you're thinking that God put it there, but it was really you putting it in there because you want it to be there, but maybe God didn't put it. Does anybody have that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I think
have
we're all
this.
tracking. We're
I have
tracking.
this all the time. Or
Got
is this me thinking it's God? Or is this really God trying to make me think it's God, that it's not me, that it's God? Or is it God and not me? Or is
Who's
it
on
me
first?
thinking? Yes, right. So I've been kind of playing with this for a while, and it wasn't until I was like spoke it out of my mouth to Christy that I was like, "Yep, that's it." So I was telling her, I said, "Have you ever thought that the perspectives we have for our kids are not always the perspectives that God has for them?" So this whole time that my kiddo has been going through all of these trials and this journey that he's been going through, I've always, spoken to him like, this is going to be, God's going to give you this as a testimony to somebody, and, it's going to help somebody later in life, and, all of those things you speak to your kiddos. And this is really what I felt that he needed to hear. And in my brain, in my mom brain, I totally saw him like out of jail, like all, on the right path and working in like a youth home, or, to like,
Yeah.
what am I trying? Like
The at-risk.
at-risk youth. I was like, what's that word? So like at-risk youth or something of that nature. And over the past, I don't know, month and a half, 2 months, it's really become clear to me that that is not where he is supposed to be speaking. That his testimony is supposed to be to somebody in jail. And that's all good and fine until you connect the dots that in order for him to give testimony to somebody that's in jail, he himself would need to be in jail, because he's not old enough to be part of any volunteer group that goes into jail, because you'd be 18 or older to go into those programs that go into the jails. And you guys, that is a really hard thing to wrap your brain around. A really big thing to wrap your brain around. And I'm still not okay with it. I mean, I love that I know that that's where he's going, but I feel like I would be lying to say that I'm hunky-dory with it,
Right. Knowing the plan doesn't
still have to
suddenly
walk
make
it
it
out.
easy.
Right. And
You can see the end of the finish line, but you still have to get there.
Right. Well, and I think like when Christy said, I want you to do the podcast. And it's so funny because the first time I heard Danette, it was like God was like, "Hey, you have a story to tell." And I'm like, "No, I don't. Hush." And that's when I started
Where's the remote?
Hush. Right. That's when you start is that me saying I need a story, or is that God, like that?
And God was saying, you told me to hush.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Right. And so then Christy calls. I'm like, okay, fine, I'm listening. But I feel like so often we want to end with everything's okay. And I followed God and I had faith and now everything's great. And I don't think that's real life, you know? I feel like part of the journey is maybe knowing what the end might look like, but not knowing how you're getting there yet. You know, I wholeheartedly believe that God is woven into the fabric of our life and the life of my son and our lives together. But there's this, you know, point where I don't know what thread he's using next, you know? Like, how am I going to know if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And I just have to have that faith to keep moving forward and not really knowing if that's the right way to go. And knowing that perspective's never permanent.
Oh, absolutely.
And I have changed my perspective so many times. Not just with this, but with other things. And it's one of those things to not get locked in to something that feels good.
Right.
Because I truly, in just the last month, have really started getting out and trying to hang out with friends again. And it has been so hard because my friends aren't dumb. They know I haven't been there. So it's like,
But your friends also love you.
They do.
And they're going to say, about time.
Right. And so, and I was telling Christy, I was like, it sounds really silly, but I take things to work on to my friends' houses so that I can do something that I'm comfortable with to retrain myself to hang out with people. And that sounds so bizarre. Like, I am a Tinkerbell of all things. Like, I love to tinker. I fix and put together, and like, people always laugh at my husband and I because we always say our gender roles are so backwards, because he's the one that does like the cooking. Like, he is like the chef maestro at our house and makes these amazing meals. And y'all, I just gave up cooking. Let's just say that. But I'm the one that
Tim
does.
would like for me not to give it up.
But I'm the one around the house that like puts up the ceiling fans and retiles our floor, and like, that's my thing. And so, as you know, and I think that a lot of this is the behaviorist in me. I have to like retrain myself to go and enjoy hanging out with people. And so I'm like kind of tricking myself so that I go and hang out with people, but I take something I like. And I know that sounds so trivial, but sometimes that's what you got to do to work yourself back into that comfortable. Because I used to be so comfortable hanging out with people, and it's not as comfortable anymore. And it's just because I've gone through this thing, and I did my little turtle tuck, and I'm trying to like get across the rest of the highway, and there's still traffic, you know, and I can't say I'm not going to tuck again. But I think in doing this and in like getting out there and just being really transparent with my friends, like my poor friend Falana, when I just showed up at her house one day, and which was bizarre because I haven't hung out with her in forever because she has 2 precious babies, and it was just hard. And I show up at her house, and I get her tool bag out, and I start fixing things around her house. And she is like really struggling with me coming to her house and like just tinkering. And she's like, you don't have to come over here and work on things. And I said, please don't take it personally. I need you to understand. And so I had to explain to her, like, I need to get to a place where this is comfortable again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. And you know how hard it is to admit that somebody that you used to hang out with all the time, you're not comfortable hanging out with them again. And so I think as moms, and we talk about it all the time, is just being honest with each other and asking for the help.
Yeah.
But just knowing that help isn't always physical. Sometimes it's just like backing up and letting you do, you know, and letting you be in that moment. And knowing that while you're in that moment, you have somebody there with you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because it was so powerful to know that once I got done with my little turtle stuff, I could pick up the phone and I call Christy, and I could like word vomit on her all of this stuff. And she was just like, and she's probably thinking, where is this coming from? But she listened, and I know that she understood where I was. And I think we just need to be real. Like, stop trying to put on this persona of everything's fine.
Right?
It's fine.
It's not fine.
It's not
It's
fine.
not fine.
You know, it's not fine. And it's okay
It's okay that
for
it's
it to
not
not
fine.
It
be
is.
fine.
Absolutely.
And it's okay for you to not be fine. And it's okay for you not to have all the answers. Because I still don't have all the answers. And I still don't know where my story's ending up. I don't know where
Right.
my kiddo is ending up. But the fact that I'm at a place now that I can see where I was and what I have learned from that, and that I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't gone through that,
Yeah.
I think is so powerful. And I encourage all the mamas to get out there and be okay with not being fine.
Yes.
And with not having this bow tie moment. Like, you might have finally gotten everything in that cute little box, but it doesn't have to have a beautiful bow on it.
Right.
It can be a beat up, knocked out box with holes
Right.
in it. And
'Cause on
getting
the
it to-
other side of eternity, we get a whole new box.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And getting it together doesn't have to be pretty.
Right.
I think we put ourselves in these like
We've got
stigmas
to get
that has to
ourselves
be
together,
pretty.
but we have to look good while we do it.
right. And it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I just encourage y'all to reach out and know that pretty is not okay. And fine is not fine. Like, be okay with needing help.
Just be honest
Yeah.
and open.
Right.
And that's really hard to be vulnerable. There are two songs that are going through my head right now. Songs are really hitting me today. One is just, it's a song about, it's an apology basically to a friend that, like, as her house was burning down around her, everybody like stepped away to be comfortable and to get out of the fire. But she had to stay there because she was like, the house is burning down around her. And how it's like, I should have stepped into the fire and just stood with you
Right.
until all the ashes fell. And while that's not a safety lesson,
Do not run into an open
Right.
flame.
no, but the metaphor is really beautiful because, like, I think that sometimes we just need to be okay and be bold as friends to step into the fire and
Yes.
step into the mess and not look at the mess
Don't
and just
wait to be
let
asked.
Yes. And I
Yes.
think I know why you said that song because I
Yeah.
forgot this point. So I think part of me being able to get to a place I could talk with people again is I had my two peeps, my Christy and my Falana, and they never stopped asking about my son.
Yeah.
Even though it was uncomfortable and it was gross and you don't always want to know the answer, you always ask because it's like, it's one of those places where you don't want to ask because you know it's not good, because you know if he were home you would have already found out, and so you know that he's not home, and you know that, but they never stopped asking. And so when I finally got to a place that I could talk about it, I was able to because they asked, because I wouldn't have just brought it up.
Yeah.
So that is a way to help other mamas too, is even if they keep shrugging you off and they keep, like, don't be annoying, but also don't give up on them because they got to work through it themselves. So,
Okay. So to wrap it up,
yes.
I've got song lyrics to another song
Oh, goodness.
about Jesus because it is blaring in my ears and you have to hear it.
Okay.
So this is just the chorus. There was another in the fire standing next to me. There was another in the waters holding back the sea. And should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free, there's a cross that bears the burden where another died for me. There is another in the fire. So even when we fall short, God's in the fire with you and he never
Always.
left your
Yeah.
side.
And everyone's story looks different, but we know the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
We know the end. We know that God has won the victory and he gives it to us.
Right.
And the victory is ours in the end. regardless of what the fight is, regardless of the fight that we're smack dab in the middle of,
Yeah.
whatever your fight looks like with your kids, with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important to us also to have women on and to talk. And that's why we need to be so honest and open with each other, is that we need a place where you're getting teaching from someone who doesn't have it all together. Do you
Right.
understand what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of my life, I've looked up to speakers and looked up to amazing men and women of
And
God.
thought they had it all together.
But like, it's the end of their story.
yeah.
Right.
They finally got through it and they're telling you from a different perspective, but you're in the middle of it.
Right.
And
right.
sometimes you need to hear,
They don't tell you the messy part.
right.
Yeah. Everybody gets the A side. Like, I know some of you don't know what tapes are, but the A side, just a little like knowledge for you. The A side of the tape was like the best.
Yeah.
It was all of the hit singles. It was all of the ones that play on the radio. It was like the side. And if you're lucky as an artist, you have people that would take the cassette out of the
And
tape player
turn it
and
over.
flip it over. Unless you had the cool tape player that did that by
Did it
itself.
for you. I know.
Right.
But first technology,
Right.
no.
So, but I think it's so important that we see B-side. Like somebody, I heard this once and they said, don't be upset with Facebook because Facebook's everybody's A-side.
Yeah. It's so true.
Yeah.
And that's why I really, I mean, I think that's one of the most incredible parts of having you come on. I mean, even Danette also. I mean, Danette had, it just you both. Like, I mean, and I think that we talk about our life too, but that's what this is all about. It's sending help,
Right.
send help because I'm not okay.
Right. Right.
It's not fine.
It's not fine.
Fine.
And it's okay to be not fine.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
As long as you're seeking help from God.
I love it.
Thank you so much, Lacey,
No problem.
for coming
love
and
you.
sharing.
I love you too.
I love you also.
I love you too.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe to our newsletter on the sendhelppodcast.com and listen to us there. Follow us on Instagram at sendhelppodcast and Facebook at sendhelppodcast and Twitter. We tweet too. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Lacey. We love you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.